Hello and welcome. My name is Lewis Nichols, and this is World Building Essentials and Exercises, the WBEE. We're on a world building project today, and this is new territory for me, so it's going to be a little bit of a sloppy video. First of all, I've got no script. I'm used to having scripts. I'm using Audacity for the first time. I am using this other thing, Movavi, for the first time, which I'm going to try to paste this video into. And what you're seeing in the background is a map. Me creating a map for a campaign that I am starting in a few weeks. Now, that is on Incarnate, and I'm better with Incarnate than the rest of this stuff, but you're going to see a lot of experimenting going on. So, this video is going to be a world building video for this map area. I'm just going to run through a stack of cue cards, and we're going to talk about different aspects of world building and completely free form. Just see how it goes. Just so you know, I am completely qualified to do this. I've been running games since the mid 80s. I've been doing world building in different formats for that whole time. In other words, I've been doing it for some of my writing, which you can find on Amazon, and I've been doing it for gaming. Sometimes I do it just for fun. So as I said, we're flipping kind of randomly through cue cards, talking about this area. But first of all, let's do some big picture stuff. This is not just the known world, but as far as the inhabitants are concerned, it's the whole world. What you see at first glance as an ocean out there, that is open sky. In other words, this is not a planet per se that they're on. It's on a landmass about the size of Ontario, or a big Texas, the size of Europe. I mean, it's a big area. There's a lot of things to do and get around, and plenty of people have adventured their entire careers here. But there's no foreign lands. There's no what if I want to travel a little bit farther? It's just a big landmass in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of nothing. First card is military tradition. That might be a card on top because I've been working a lot with it. This place, the continent of Ravi, the world of Ravi, there's no military tradition here. Things are pretty peaceful, have been for many centuries. There are adventurers and small units. The forts that you're going to see pop up on the map eventually, probably toward the end, they are manned. So, yes, you can join the military, but there's no history of war, there's no records. There's no memory of great deeds in battle, at least not on a military scale. Now, throughout the history of Ravi, which stretches back probably about 800 years, let's say 800 years, we're making this stuff. This is canon now. There's been skirmishes with the dwarves. There's been internal skirmishes. There's been problems with creatures of various sorts from the far west. But for at least the last 3 centuries, let's say, there's been nothing as far as, big armies, but not even small armies, not even middle-aged type stuff, where you get together a few thousand guys and, try to beat each other to death. The next thing I've got on the card is tectonics. I didn't place any volcanoes. I don't think there's going to be any. Maybe some occasional earth tremors, but more caused by anger of the gods type stuff, or big maybe it's attributed to worms or giants in the earth, things like that. Uh, there's no earthquakes or fault lines. Um, it's it is a geologically stable region. Now I want to skip here. There's a card someone here that talks about monsters. I want to talk about the kinds of animal life and creatures on Ravi. It's pretty mundane. There aren't there aren't creatures with a lot of magical aspects. There are monsters, but more in the realm of trolls, maybe some giant kin. There's no organized groups of giants. There's no, you know, there's no dragons. Dragons are not even a myth. When somebody here talks about a dragon, if they do at all, they're talking about kind of like what we do on Earth with like maybe some kind of Komodo dragon or something like that. There's, you know, some plant monsters. The most dangerous things might be like manticores or small chimeras. Basically, natural animal like beasts. There's no organized mind. There's no liches. There might be skeletons. I'm good with skeletons, zombies, even ghouls and ghasts. But you know, no higher forms of undead. If there is vampirism, it's an extremely localized curse. And since we are talking in canon, there's an open debate about whether, you know, there's real vampires or not. It's more like Earth. It's a literary history, not a actual threat to the world. Um, so let's talk about weather. It is not seasonal. Uh, there, it's temperate, which should mean seasonal, right? Uh, temperatures, let's use Fahrenheit, range from say the 40s. It's about as cold as it gets. There are patches that can see freezing. There are patches that can see snow. Uh, these tend to fluctuate in somewhat random fashion. Summers usually last for 6 months to 18 months, and then you have bursts of cooler temperatures that still aren't really cold enough to affect crops, but not frigid. Uh, Astrologers can predict these shifts, reading the signs. They can figure out if winter is coming, and usually how difficult of a winter it's going to be. And there are times that you winter is 3 days, and you some places might get a little bit of a snowstorm, and then it's right back up into the 80s and low 90s. Let's pick another card. Ghosts. I thought about this when I saw this card. I want to use ghosts, and I'm not talking about undead. I draw a distinction between malignant undead. I don't mind getting deep into my world physics. Basically, my undead are a form of spirits that inhabit a fallen body. They live off that vigor. It can be a corrupted spirit as well for the non-corporeal undead, but they are living off the remains of that being that died. Ghosts are the conscious remains of a person who is deceased. And I want to use ghosts. They're not particularly unusual, even. We're not quite talking Harry Potter, but I like the idea. We're going to play with this. People might have ghosts that actually still live in the house. Maybe great grandparents or something, or just maybe even parents or brothers or siblings, and it can be sad. But for the most part, these are positive beings, and we're going to have some ghost NPCs. I'm gonna play with this, and we're going to have some fun. It might be more as comedy relief than serious, but I don't know. We'll see. We're going to set this card off to the side because I'm going to work with this some more. Magical items and such. There are arcane classes, arcane adventurers around, as well as a lot of priests. Religion is somewhat important. By the way, another thing I'm trying to teach myself, I'm starting to use World Anvil, and pretty much the only thing on my World Anvil, which I don't even know if you can find from the outside yet. The world name is Ravi, Ravi, and maybe you can search it by my name too. I don't know, but the only thing on there really right now is talking about religion, and it's not a group of gods. It's a single god with a lot of concepts. It's somewhat reminiscent of Christianity, but different. You have different groups and sects and beliefs within a single religion. Anyway, magical items. So there is some enchantment, a weak stuff, temporary stuff, and maybe some bigger enchantments. Things I don't know, like maybe a big throne of wisdom or something that the leader gains the abilities, some abilities by sitting on it. But as far as fireball wands and magical swords and magical armor and all that kind of stuff, not so much. There's not a lot of magic around. Let's see. We talked about monsters. I have a card on naming conventions because naming stuff is a big deal in any kind of world building. A lot of people struggle with it. I do at times. I don't have a strong naming convention for the continent yet. I just don't. I haven't thought about it much. I haven't named a lot of stuff. Looking at the map, you're going to see that even when I start labeling things. But I'll work on that. So that's going to go with the ghosts. Something to work on later. Biomes. So you can see there's a lot of mountains by now. You can see. I'm not sure what you can see, honestly. We're 14 minutes in. But the lands to the east are good, strong farmlands. The extreme eastern, you can see the two kind of funky looking cities. If they've been placed, that is actually a single city that I wasn't quite sure how to represent. It is the one single significant city with a fairly big population. I'm thinking as many as 100,000 people. The overall population. This includes the dwarves, the humans, the halflings, the other Velito that I end up placing in the area or on the continent. You're talking about 1 million people. So it's not it's enough to work with, but it's not a big, massive, densely populated area. There's only a few significant settlements, which is one of the reasons I need those naming conventions so I can get those named. But anyway, uh, so there, as far as biomes go, the dwarves are mostly dwelling above land. There's not extensive underground cave systems, although they do some tunneling. Uh, there's pasture land in the central area that's good for grazing, which of course, just because it's good for grazing doesn't mean it's bad for agriculture. Just because it's bad for agriculture doesn't mean it's good for grazing. I think that made sense. Anyway, there's overlaps, in other words. I think I'm going to make some of my barbarians probably kind of a Mongol horse people kind of uh, vibe. There can definitely be different cultures within this large area that the barbarians occupy. The non-barbaric peoples are much more monoculture. Uh, let's see. We talked about magic. Um, One of the things I'm going to play around with is magical swish zone. Swish, SW little ISH. Sometimes weird shit happens. But I'm going to play around a lot more with swish zones where magic doesn't work like you would normally expect. Might be stronger, might be weaker, might just affect certain types of magic. Uh, it won't be universal, but it's going to be a fairly common thing. The party's going to have to. Yeah, it's going to need some rules. Governments. So I guess it's time to decide. I don't want to do a democracy. It seems a little too advanced. This area is not supposed to be a super enlightened region. Um, I think we're gonna go. I hate to just do another oligarchy. I think we're going to do some thinking about this because I don't want to do a theocracy either, and I could definitely fall into that. I think we're going to be a little bit unstable. Maybe we will do a democracy. Let's do a democracy. It's going to have some problems. It might be more like a republic. Uh, it might be a little bit weak, but yeah, we're gonna work with a democracy. Uh, there's basically three strong governmental regions. There's the dwarves. There's the eastern agrarian cultures with the big city that I need to name it too. Uh, and there's the barbarians. The barbarians are probably strongman tribes. Uh, the dwarves will figure something out. Um, they let's go ahead and make them an oligarchy. Oligarchies are a natural step in adventuring communities, adventuring worlds. And yeah, we're going to make the Eastern realms democracies, and well, one big democracy. Okay, so we'll have to work on that. I'm going to set that aside. I'm getting a pretty big pile already of things I'm going to have to work on, but that's okay. That's what world building is. Factions. Uh, it's a big population. There's gonna have to be uh, spellcasting groups. The church is important. We already decided there's not a military tradition, so you're not going to have militaristic factions. But I can. We're going to have farmers guilds. The agrarian culture is big here. Then we'll probably do guilds. Guilds are good. Um, I probably will just stick to the metal, the wood, all the usual stuff. We might do a traders guild. Yeah, there's lots of room here. So you have for factions, you have the religious faction, which is going to be split up. You're going to have multiple religious factions because they don't all get along. or at least they don't all agree on everything for sure. Uh, so you're going to have the guilds, you're going to have various business interests. Um, then you're going to have the arcane interests, and maybe we'll throw in some odds and ends. Yeah, I think that's a lot of potential. So the idea of this campaign is that there's been a moon gate discovered, a moon door, and uh, they're going to be able to travel to other realms. Uh, Initially, just purely exploratory, and then threads, campaign arcs will develop out of what they run into. Um, so you're going to have over time, factions asserting themselves that are pro uh, pro searching, and those who think that you shouldn't tread into these other realms for various reasons. Um, yeah. So we have monsters. We've talked about monsters. Languages. I think we're probably gonna keep that pretty limited. Uh, I don't really like common, that everybody just speaks the same language. It's convenient, but we're not going to do it. Uh, I don't like convenient. Make people work to do things. Um, it makes them feel far more accomplished whenever they get stuff figured out. And I like the idea of adventuring teams needing specialists. So they may need a linguist. Um, yeah, that adds some fun. As far as on Ravi, we're gonna go with. I just said I don't do common, but it's a relatively small area, so trade languages make sense. If that's going to be the same as the Eastern language, I mean, by far the biggest population is there, the biggest production is there. They're culturally dominant for sure. Um, so the dwarves will have their own language. We're gonna do probably at least one barbarian language, and then that's gonna kind of be it. So there's gonna be the big primary language, uh, and some niche stuff. By the way, I since I do languages so split up, I always do double the languages that you would normally get. In other words, if you get one language, it actually you have two. If you get two languages, you get four. Uh, and I haven't even looked at the 2024 rules. What the number of languages you can learn is based on. But yeah, I'm pretty flexible, especially if you want to take the time to do it. I'm good with people characters learning other languages. Uh, I've skipped. I feel like I'm not running into the fun stuff here. Sports. Let's talk about sports. What kind of sports do we want? Uh, so let's. We can generate some more unique stuff, but I think there's nothing wrong with just robbing from Earth culture. I think we're just going to do some soccer style games. There's no reason doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be exactly the same. I mean, why make a small alteration in the rule when you don't have to? Let's do tennis and let's do track and field. So those are the big three: track and field, uh, tennis, and soccer. Niche stuff. Uh, let's let's do a form of bowling. We're gonna do bowling bars. Bowling is considered a vulgar sport, but it's often in low end pubs and stuff. They'll have a bowling alley, and then we're gonna do Oh, I had it. I had it. What was it? Oh, what about boxing? Are we going to do boxing? Let's do boxing, and let's make boxing this really big deal. Uh, it's pretty close to what we call as boxing. It's none of this to the death stuff that we want to see in fantasy times. It's a legitimate try not to get yourself killed boxing match. So, but it is also less common. It's a smaller sport. There's factions that want it outlawed completely because of the violence. Ooh, and we can play with that if the world becomes a more violent place, then that can be part of something promoted to increase the violence level of the yeah. You get all kinds of cultural brainwashing stuff. For games, we're gonna kind of do. Uh, we're gonna steal again. Um, I love the idea of chess. Um, it's such a basic game, and just because you say your fantasy players are playing chess doesn't mean that it's exactly the same. It's just a corollary, right? But we can do other board games. I mean, we can just say that tic tac toe is a popular way to pass the time. Yeah. Uh, and I know this. Some people think this kind of stuff sounds goofy. I don't care, man. Why are you watching this channel? This is what we do here: is the goofy, tiny little quirks of culture. We decide that at camp, it's a good chance that you guys are, passing the time and relaxing by playing a game of tic tac toe in the dirt. Uh, and who knows? There might even be some fun scenes where the players are trying to teach somebody from a distant land that that they've encountered in their explorations. The way they bond is by teaching them tic tac toe. Uh, what else do we have here? I have about 20 more minutes of talking, so we definitely cannot stop now. Uh, why do I have? Okay, so I have the same stuff on multiple cards. It looked like I had more cards than I really do. Um, let us fool around with some landmarks. There are definitely landmarks on this map. The big city. We're going to have to name this big city. I think I've already named it once. Did I write it down? Of course not. Where would I have written down the big city? I don't see it on any of my notes. This is some quality broadcasting right here. Uh, so, Roderia. There you go. Roderia. That is a totally makes sense name. Roderia. That's our big city where all the people live in the east. Uh, I did a freaking diorama to make sense so I could picture this thing. Uh, it is an extreme geological, yeah, that's the word, geological anomaly. It is two arches, both very large, one arch extending over the other. The smaller arch is about a kilometer or half a mile. The second one obviously is even larger, going up over the top. Uh, the city is built onto these arches. You have connecting stone structure connecting the two. Uh, you have some of the building of the city going into the stone, so you'll have tunnels and under areas down below. I mean, it's kind of a Skyrim thing, kind of looking up at the city going across the arch. Uh, but you have smaller towns on ground level underneath. I figure these are probably like your smelters and your some of your stinky industry, noisy industries down there, tanners and such. A You'll see the river on the map. That was one of the first things I laid down and then erased it and redid it because I didn't like the way it looked. But this river runs all the way through the continent. It is navigable for most of that, and it runs through the base of these arches, which is perfect because it drives these industrial mills. Yeah, perfect. And then this goes off the side into this massive waterfall falling off into eternity. Uh, the city is quite striking, and it, the campaign will rarely visit it. Most of the campaign is not going to be on Ravi. Uh, I just wanted to get this background laid down because this is what the characters know. Most of them will be from Ravi, or at least have visited, or sorry, they will all be from Ravi. Most of them will be from Roderia, or at least nearby, or at least have visited it. It is essentially the cultural population center of the known world. There are other landmarks. I like the areas of these forts to be striking. Uh, I don't know, have I laid them down to 31 minutes? Almost definitely. Uh, yeah, and this is probably where you're seeing me experiment with Incarnate. Once again, this is a sloppy video, but for those few of you who will suffer through the whole thing, I thank you very much. And I gotta say, if you've listened to 30 minutes of this babble and watched me struggling on Incarnate, is there any reason that you shouldn't subscribe and like and possibly even leave a comment about how crazy this whole thing is? Um, so I want some other unique, striking landmarks. Um, I like the idea of maybe the remains of giant trees, uh, just occasionally through the barbarian lands. Uh, in fact, I might play. Yeah, let's play with the idea that some mountains are actually old tree trunks. We're not going to go as extreme as you see the conspiracy theories on YouTube, but we're going to have the remains of some absolutely ginormous trees as landmarks out there. Uh, we're going to have some Nazca lines in the uh, the mountains to the south. We're going to connect these with magical anomalies. By the way, those mountains are probably the most dangerous area of Ravi, um, and part of that is because of these anomalies. But there's some critters down there too, and with adventures typically being lower level, I'm gonna say that a lot of these stories is people going into adventure there just don't come back, um, and the dangers there are remain a mystery, and that probably will not be solved in this campaign because that's not the point of the campaign. Uh, where does that take us? What's left on my list here? That's uh, okay. So let's talk about things like clothing, music, food, the fun parts of culture. It, the fun things, the things that players don't care about until they you make them care. Uh, I think that there's beef. Um, Beef is a little bit of a high end food, but not so much because it requires a lot of technology, just because it takes a lot of time to develop a bovine infrastructure. But this place has been around for centuries. It's an old place, and they've had time to develop that process of moving, raising, moving, and slaughtering beef, and then moving it into the city for sale. Uh, I like the idea of oxen. The cows here are probably a little bit bigger than what we're used to. Kind of super cows. I don't know why. I like it. There's definitely horses around. Uh, there may, yeah, we talked about possibly doing some cavalry stuff. So the people eat beef. Um, Chickens are too easy. We're definitely doing chickens. So, I mean, the meat available is pretty much what you would expect. We're in somewhat temperate, so we probably don't have rice. It's probably beans. Yeah, beans, corn. Corn during the warmer. Yeah. So let's do a lot of calories coming from beans, especially for lower classes. Uh, beans and a little bit of meat. Uh, we have a big selection of vegetables. We're just going to stick to the earth norms of carrots and such. Carrots and green beans and tomatoes. Uh, I Yeah, it's warm enough. It's warm enough that you're basically having, uh, you're not. It's not like rhubarb, and you're gonna have during cold times. Radishes are going to be a little bit of a delicacy. You're going to have onions year round. So it's very, very American style food. As far as clothing goes, you basically have choices between, just generally speaking, your choices are generally flax, silk, and wool. Uh, I'm going to go with wool in the north, in the barbarian lands, and flax in the south. Once again, the economy has had time to develop to the point that that process is not a problem. In fact, that's going to be some of the mill-driven industries beneath the city. Are these sewing? What the heck? Clothing, cloth mills, clothing mills. There's a word for it. Textile mills. Yeah, textile mills. Uh, Music. I like the idea of going a little bit D&D traditional. We're just going to have tavern music. That's going to be our go-to. Strings and wind. There are drums around, but mostly it's strings and wind. And the voice songs usually concern things like lost love and these minor adventures that do happen. Like I said, there's not a lot of high end adventuring here. It's a pretty low threat world, uh, but music is around. Uh, you have people entertaining themselves. Most families will try to encourage or force a child or two to learn to sing, to develop their voice. Richer families will be able to hire coaches, uh, but singing is something that, in fact, that might be maybe something I could give out as part of backgrounds, something I do with background specialties. Uh, it might just be something I mix in or throw on top that basically uh, the character has the performance or gains advantage. Yeah, just do that whether they have performance or not. They gain advantage on a performance check uh, when uh, from when they're just using when they're singing, uh, and that'll take that into account as a kind of a cultural norm. So we're about 4 minutes from the end of the video. That probably means that I should wrap up. It doesn't. This isn't going to have to be exact. Uh, I'm just going to paste it in, and it's sloppy. I'm willing to accept that. I mean, I started this station on sloppy work, and let's finish it on sloppy work. This is for a campaign that is going to start here in a few weeks that will be put out as a podcast. It's something that a group has been planning, applauding for quite some time. I've come into it a little bit late. I am going to be the DM, if that's not obvious at this point. I have some fun ideas. I got some crazy ideas, and I think it's going to be worth tuning in over time as things develop because I'm wanting to create some shock and awe. They've already accepted a dangerous adventuring world. We've already set expectations that characters will die. In fact, to the extent that I feel like that I'm not doing my job if somebody at least doesn't lose a character within the first 3 sessions. I'm not going to go out of my way to target anybody. I'm not just going to say, "Oh, it's been too long. You take 400 points of damage. Roll up a new character." But I'm definitely pushing the envelope. It's going to be the kind of campaign where players need to bring their running shoes. They need to. There's going to be a lot of situations where they're going to have to quickly identify whether they run or fight, and a lot of the time that answer is going to be run. But we'll see how it goes. Maybe I'm just talking a big game. I don't like slaughtering players, but if it happens, it happens. So yeah, once we get on an established schedule, I think it's very much going to be worth tuning in. It's going to be a lot of fun. And if it doesn't become a big hit, then I'm learning to use all this new technology that I've never used before. So thank you to World Anvil. Thank you to Audacity, and thank you to Movavi for getting me to suffer through this as I learn the new technology. They say dead air is a bad thing, but we're gonna cut things off. We're less than a minute away from the runtime of my video, and I see no reason to talk right up to the end of it. I appreciate you all very much. Anybody that's lasted to the end of this video, you are amazing. The world is better off with you here, and I'm glad that you are. I love you all very much. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful rest of the day. Cheers.